Okay, so if you are looking to start an online business, or maybe you have just started an online business, I'm super excited to be able to share this video with you because I wish I had this video at an earlier point in time. But I feel like we would all love to know, truly looking back, what are the investments that you would have made or that you are going to recommend to people to make if you are starting a business within your first year that are actually going to make the difference. So I pulled out all the spreadsheets, all the numbers. I am dishing literally all of the exact numbers and details to you guys about what the main investments that I made during my first year of business were. And I'm also going to highlight what some of the best ones, what some of the worst ones, and what I would suggest to you guys. For those of you that are new here, my name is Amanda Colby and I am a business coach for service-based entrepreneurs as well as a full-time world traveler. And I help entrepreneurs start and scale their online business so that they can live a freedom lifestyle. So my channel here is all about entrepreneurship, business, marketing, and the digital nomad lifestyle. We got a good mix of stuff here. So if you are excited for this video, if you are new here, I would so appreciate it if you'd give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Okay, so this is not going to be one of those videos where you have to like wait until the middle and the end and all of those things to reveal the big juicy stuff that you're looking for. Let's like literally just dive right into it. So I want to preface that I had a corporate job. For those of you that don't know my story, you can actually watch my video here about how I got started and built a near $1 million business in under 2 years, and kind of that whole journey and what that looked like. But for those of you that don't know, I had a corporate job and I ended up quitting it. I didn't have a business yet at the time and I moved to Thailand. And so it took me a little while to get started here. So before I even started my now coaching business, I actually made investments before I even made my first dollar. So I'm going to separate those. Those were two main investments that I made that still kind of had a trickle effect into the coaching business. And then I'll talk about the ones from the first year. Okay, so the two main investments I made before I even started my coaching business, and obviously this was in preparation for it, were a couple of different courses that I bought that I'll actually talk about in a little bit, and that was about $3K. And then I also invested in a coach that was one-on-one as well as a group program, and this was for a total of 6 months, and that was a $15K investment. Now, most of you are probably already listening to this being like, what? Like, that's an insane amount of money to invest upfront, especially before ever having made my first dollar. And let me be very, very clear. I had no help, no backup. I had a little bit in savings at this time, but I did not have that much in savings. So this was a true testament of I was going all in. I knew that I needed the support, and I knew that once I got it, there was nothing that was going to stop me. I was going to skyrocket, right? And I was taking this so seriously that this was not just going to be a side gig. This was not a side hustle. Like, I was ready to rock and roll. And this was not the case when I first quit my job. This was actually probably 8 to 10 months later after I had tried to DIY and do everything myself. And I finally got serious and made these investments and was like, yo, I'm in it. Skin in the game. Like, let's do this. And so that really made a big impact. But I wanted to share that was even before I started my business. So not even in the first year. That is something that I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs as well. You stay stuck until you kind of make those key pivotal ones, until you put some skin in the game. So let's move into then what is a breakdown. I broke it down kind of by categories here for that first year of business. So the first category I wanted to go over was software, like tools and stuff that you actually need to run an online business. So these are things like Showit, which is my website hosting platform. ConvertKit at the time was my email marketing platform. Things like Acuity, which is for scheduling. So all of these different tools that you need, and they're normally paid like on a monthly basis. Most of these tools are anywhere from like $5 to $30 per month, but they of course do add up. And this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs try and kind of like cut corners in the beginning. But these are just simply like expenses. I always love explaining software and tools in your business, that if you opened a brick and mortar pizza shop, you cannot serve your guests and make money if you do not have the tools that you need to make the pizza, like the brick oven. So a little bit silly, but that's how your perspective needs to be if it isn't already on these tools that are going to make your life so much easier. So in total, and I wrote these numbers down so I don't forget them for you guys, in total it was about $2,500 in software during my first year of business. Okay, the next category is legal. So this is, again, not a super sexy category, but really, really, really important. So I invested invested about $300 in contracts that were written by a lawyer for all my different services and clients that I was hiring on. And then I also spent about $4,000 in trademarks. Now, this is one that might not be typical for people within their first year of business, but I had created several key signature group programs, one of them being Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp, shameless plug here, that I knew were big, and I knew that they were going to be a part of my brand as we scaled, and I knew I needed to protect them. And I'm so glad that I did this very early on within my business, because it has saved me a lot of headache and I needed those things in place. Now, what I will say here is I am not a legal professional, and this is not legal advice. This is just simply me sharing what I personally did along my own journey in my business. Okay, the next category I want to dive into is team and outsourcing, because I'm a huge advocate of outsourcing. In fact, I made my first hire in my business 5 weeks in, and that's not saying that I was just like blowing up and like had all this cash to spare. I just was like, I don't like doing these things. They take up a lot of my time and my energy, and I know that if I outsource them, I'm going to be able to do so many more impactful things. And that's exactly what happened. So my first hire was a VA. And over the course of that first year of business, I spent about $2,000 on a VA/social media manager. The next thing I outsourced was copywriting. For those that don't know, I actually was a web designer before I got into coaching. So I love design. To me, it's energizing. To me, it's really fun. But copy, on the other hand, not so much fun for me. Not my zone of genius. Like, I can sit here pulling my hair out trying to write a couple of sales emails, but I will like procrastinate by designing the sales page. So I knew for me this was big, and I had a couple of launches during my first 6 months of business where I needed sales pages, sales emails, like all of this different stuff. And so I spent about $2,000 outsourcing copywriting. Now, we'll summarize all these numbers at the end for you guys, but to finish out the team category, about the 6 to 7 month mark within my first year of business was when things really started to pick up. I had hit 6 figures, and I was well on my way to multiple 6 figures, and I really needed more support. So at that time, my team actually grew quite a lot, and I was, paying about $4,000 per month for a team. And this was also the time where I started Facebook ads. So this is something that a lot of people don't start their first year in business, but I had a very clear goal of where I wanted to go during the next year. And I knew that this was a big part of my strategy, that I wanted to start early on. So I did invest in Facebook ads, and beyond the, Facebook ads manager, which was included in my team expenses, we were paying anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 a month on Facebook ads expenses. The other things that I invested in the first year was a new MacBook. This was unplanned, obviously, but it is the bread and butter, like the core of you running your business. So it was really important. So I did spend about $2,000 on a new MacBook. Just what it is. It was something that was super necessary. Another investment that I made was to get NLP certified. So this is something that I had been wanting to do for forever. I was living in Bali at the time, and they actually had in-person trainings in Bali that I had heard really highly recommended, and I still absolutely recommend them. If you're looking for a recommendation, I'm not sponsored by them at all, but I will include the link below for the training that I did do. And this was about a $2,000 investment. It was amazing. It was such a great experience. But I will summarize if I would have done it again during my first year at the end here. Okay, coaching investments. What would a coach be without having their own coaches? Probably a hypocrite. So absolutely, I've always had coaching, support and mentorship support. It's just so crucial in you learning, seeing different perspectives, moving you forward, and avoiding like so many different bumps in the road that like you might not have been able to see from someone else who's already been there. So I spent about $5,000 during that first year of business in just some various like intensives and small trainings from certain coaches. And then I also joined a $15,000 mastermind. So that wraps up all the categories. So let's add this up for you guys. So drum roll. I don't know if you can hear that. But drum roll, what you guys have been wanting to know, what were the total investments that I made during my first year in business? It was about $80,000. Now, again, most people's hearts are probably dropping here. But what I want to point out to you is that a business has to invest. A business has to have team members and softwares and all of these different things in order to be able to grow and reach those marks, right? No one does not have in expenses within their business in order to be able to grow. The other thing that I want to point out here is that part of this was truly like putting my pedal to the metal and making it work. I had student loans. I had probably over 20K in debt when I started my business during that first year. And I had less than $10,000 in savings. I don't know the exact amount, but I did not have all of this, backup plan or this perfect situation or all of this money money just waiting to be invested, right? This was me, that everything that was coming in, I was being smart. I knew my personal expenses and all of those different things, and what was coming in, I was reinvesting right back out. And I will tell you right now, this was a huge contributing factor to the growth within my business, especially during that first year. Now, if you're curious what that looks like to make in expenses and investments along those lines and scaling during that first year, we were able to hit about $300,000 within that first year. And that's what those expenses were able to help me be able to achieve, right? So when you are investing in the right things within your business, it is really going to help propel you forward. But the key there is the right. So the whole point of this video is to, one, kind of expose, like, make this a well-known thing for those starting your business so that you don't stay stuck trying to like cut corners and DIY it the entire time. But what I also want to highlight that I wish I could have seen is which of these investments that I said were the best ones, which ones were not quite the best ones, and what I would recommend to you doing moving forward. Okay, so the first best and also worst investment I'm going to say together because they parallel off each other. So the best investment that I made out of all of that from my first year of business was the one-on-one coach that I initially invested in, as well as the live coaching program that it was all kind of like wrapped up together as. The worst one was all of the courses that I bought actually before I started my business, right before I started my business. Now, here's why. In the beginning of growing a business, I think that courses in a general sense are amazing, but you need that live support. It was a game changer to not just have to like consume all this information in a course and still have to kind of figure it out all on my own how to implement it. The other thing is, no matter what, no matter how amazing certain courses are, they don't help you specifically sort through your thoughts and make decisions. And that's what that coach and that live program, that's why it was so beneficial. I didn't even end up finishing, all of those courses because they just made me feel overwhelmed. They weren't actually helpful in getting me where I needed to go. So that was definitely by far the worst and then the best investment that's this first year. Now, the other two best investments that I wanted to highlight were my VA/social media managers, those first hires that I made. The copywriter I could have done without if I needed to, but I think it was an energetic match. Same thing with the Facebook ads, definitely could have done without, but for me, I kind of had that vision and I was rocking and rolling. But I will say the VA and the social media managers that I hired along the way, starting again at that 5-week month, were absolutely one of the best decisions and investments that I made because it enabled me to scale and add more to my plate while they took away all of these other things, right? So I was continually able to move forward, and energetically, it was such a better balance because I got to take things off my plate that were just energetically draining to me. The last investment that I wanted to highlight from everything we've talked about that was one of my best ones was the trademarking. So again, I don't necessarily know that this applies to everyone in their first year, but for me personally, with Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp being such a huge program now and what I am known for, I'm so glad that I did take that risk. It was a lot of money in the beginning, but I went ahead and invested in that trademark. Now, let's go to the worst. So I already talked about the first one, which was a bunch of courses. They were all from a very well-known coach, and they ended up being oversold and very under-delivered, that I definitely regret purchasing during that first year. And also, I wish I would have just spent that money in a live program from the beginning. And I will absolutely make this shameless plug right here because it's such a huge reason why I created Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp. But this is why I keep Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp, which is my signature program for new entrepreneurs to help you set up six-figure foundations in your business. This is why it retains a live program. This is why I am so involved in the growth from all of my students and clients in the beginning in LLB, because that was such a huge differentiating factor that I had wished I had known and making an investment from the beginning. Okay, and then the last two investments that I won't say were the worst, they just were things that I might not have done again, was the NLP training. Loved it. Love that I did that. It was such a good experience, but especially had the opportunity just not aligned in that live training was in person, like at a good time when I was in Bali. It really is not something that I would recommend doing it. I have used it kind of in my business and services, but it was honestly kind of just something I was personally interested. So might not have been something I'd invest in again, just at least that first year. Same thing with Facebook ads. That would be the last one. It's not something I recommend everyone dive into right away. It's something you truly have to be ready to like spend some money in order to see results. I am definitely glad I did invest in it because it has gotten me to where I am now in my business, but it's not exactly something that I would look back on as like the single investment that made the most difference in me scaling my business. Okay, so final summary point here. If you are watching this and you are in your first year of business or just starting out your business, here is what my recommendations would be for what I would recommend investing in to make the most impact to help you scale and really get your business off the ground. I have 4 recommendations for you guys. Okay, so my number 1 suggestion is to invest in a live group program. Now, here's why. Investing in a one-on-one coach can be really, really pricey. And investing in a course is not going to give you the support that I really, truly believe new entrepreneurs need in the beginning. So a group program is a perfect mix of both because you're getting live coaching and you're also getting all that information and course material that you actually need. And so this is why I created Laptop Lifestyle Bootcamp. As you guys know, you can look at the link below to see when we're opening up our next round. But this is just the perfect combination of what you need. And by far, what I wish I had, like the best investment, one-stop shop, everything that you need to know, all the support that you need in order to move forward. The next recommendation I would make for you guys is to invest in the monthly softwares that are really going to help you set up different automations and make your life a lot easier. So instead of having to manually schedule all of these different things, get Acuity, right? Or Calendly. Instead of having to manually send contracts and invoices and all of these things, maybe invest in a software like Dubsado. But you can really sign up for all the softwares and tools that you need to run your online business in the beginning for less than $100 a month. So it is definitely something that I would say is a no-brainer investment needed to make during your first year. The third investment I would recommend you making is to outsource ASAP. I get this question all the time, is what point in my business should I start to outsource? And honestly, my answer is literally day 1. Like if you can. Most of the time it's just a financial weighing decision of what is right for me and what things do I need to outsource to energetically and time-wise and task-wise as well move me forward in my business. So this was definitely one of my best investments and it is a recommendation for you. And my 4th investment, and these are listed in priority, by the way, my 4th investment recommendation for you is going to be in contracts and some legal stuff. So whether that's even a legal consultation for how to set up your business and maybe some of your taxes or getting contracts, this is really important and it's something that we often kind of put off until the end. And the thing about the legal stuff is you don't need it until you need it. And so you're never going to know when that is. And it's just, again, a part of running a business that I do highly recommend investing in during your first year. All right, this is super fun. I hope you guys liked kind of just pulling back the curtain a little bit, seeing behind the scenes of what my journey has looked like, as well as what I would recommend nowadays if I was doing this all over again for y'all. So if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I have tons of more videos all about entrepreneurship, scaling your business, marketing, as well as living the digital nomad lifestyle that you can check out here. And I will see you guys on the next video.